Welcome to the WinEH podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacey.
So today on the Rancher Way show, we have Adrienne Hanson. I hope I said that.
That's correct.
Yeah. And we're at the Soil and Health Grazing Conference here in Edmonton 2024 for their biannual conference. And at this one table, I just was so lovely. I met three wonderful ladies, and you're one of them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So we always are looking for ways to deliver value to our listeners. We are all about financially empowering people, showing them there's a better way than what's currently going on. And yet at the same time, we also like to highlight people who also serve the agricultural community as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, and sorry, I'm always learning. So I don't have it all memorized, but
Canadian Forage and Grassland Association.
okay.
So right now I work a lot with producers and making grazing plans because, like you mentioned, having a plan ahead of what's happening is always a better place to be or a better feeling to have or more advantageous position to have than having to be reactionary all the time. So I always tell people that the grazing plan is just like meal planning for your cows. And it's like the first entry-level step into thinking in the planning area. So a lot of our producers, or not a lot of our producers, some of our producers, or the traditional way for grazing was to send the cows in the pasture and just let them hang out until you think they look like they've got not much grass left, or like just until it feels right to bring them out. And then what would happen is the cows would run around and they'd eat their favorite grass, and some would gain poorly and some would gain better. And there was not much herd dynamic that way, as much as we could have. And you'd end up with kind of selective grazing and poor utilization and some differences in distribution that were not the most profitable for the rancher. So we went towards a advanced grazing system is what we call it. There's lots of different names for it: rotational grazing, planned grazing, AMP grazing. You know, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Right.
So the idea being, though, is we plan where they're going to be and for a certain amount of time that reflects the growth of the plant to capture the most from the plant that you can prior to damaging it permanently. So tying that into, I know that seems like a long ways from economics, but that first step is knowing who's taking what and what the return is for on the cow's end, like how big you're growing your calf.
Right. So we operate, like when we're helping somebody with their finances, we like to operate and coach our clients to be proactive. And so developing a grazing plan would be along the same lines. Let's be proactive with developing this grazing plan. My guess is like one of the first steps would be, let's assess the health of the grass right now, and then what can we do moving forward? Because it is like, if you wait till like, oh crap, I got to move the cows, you probably should have moved them 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so you do have to be very proactive in that way. So you guys are somebody who can help producers develop that plan and come. So do you help them assess the health of their pastures?
So even before we assess the health of the pastures, we come up with a plan, because a lot of times planning takes place, as you guys probably are very well aware, now until tax time. And so it's not the best time to go out on the land.
Right.
But we do acknowledge that that's a very important part of managing your pastures. But our first step, usually due to timing, is laying out the plan. So we get maps and we talk about what the species is there, if it's tame or if it's native, what the layout's like, what the moisture levels are like, what the topography is like, what the soil's like. And then we make some assumptions from there, because it is a baby step just to get the grazing plan started. So if we show the producer how a grazing plan on paper could look, referencing a map for the parcel they want to implement a grazing plan, it's already like piqued their interest for the springtime to be like, I need to watch. So a lot of times in the springtime, it's a nice flush of grass. We don't have to be as concerned about the volume. We are aware of the volume, but when we do the meal planning part, just like people do for their groceries, you know you have this much to get started. And so we start harvesting the grass in a sequential or planned fashion so that we can watch our meals at the back end grow. Because growing season rest is like the key, right?
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think that it is something that's so crucial with like managing our grazing, because something that I notice like when I'm driving is I always like look at pastures and like how much grass is there. Does it look like it's overgrazed? So once you get to that point where you're like, shoot, it's been overgrazed and the health is not great, then it's just a random question. How many years typically would you give that rest, say like in southern Alberta where it's like dry?
Yeah. Going to give you the standard PA answer here. Well, it depends.
Yeah.
But moisture is the limiting factor in all of the prairies, arguably all of grazing in the world. But you will see recovery quicker when that plant is given a chance to have complete and total rest. Just like us. We'll go home from this conference and none of us will lay down and be like, I'm just going to do complete and total rest for a week, We're all going to be getting ready for Christmas. And even though we're not working, it's still very busy, right?
Right.
So the same thing with the plant. Even if they're not actively grazing there, if there's cows walking around and taking the odd bite, it never gets a chance to recover. So when that plant has like rest, then you see changes. And by no means is the meal plan meant to be a diet. It's meant to match the requirements of the animal while preserving the life of the grass. And as that, when we've seen pastures that are 20 or 30 years old, tame pastures, make a very nice recovery to be a very abundant pasture by implementing growing season rest.
So I'm curious, like just from the standpoint of, in order to get the assistance, what is the process for that? Like, is it just like an email, and then like what's the expected time frame for a person to receive a response and then to be able to work with someone to get this plan going? Like if a person was highly motivated and focused in getting this implemented, is it within 1 or 2 months, or is this like over a course of a year or two that this takes place?
So again, depends. No, sorry. So the grazing plan part is really easy. We have money for it right now. And we have producer mentors to help people kind of sort through the ins and outs, putting fences in the right place, grazing things in different sequences for the best timing for their place and the life factors. And so what you do is reach out to your provincial contacts. So here in Alberta, that's Erica. And that person can hook you up with a mentor. And like we kind of use mentor we don't think of mentor as some grand poobah in the sky, We think of a mentor as somebody who's willing to learn and willing to help. And so we train mentors to help with CFGA style grazing plans. There's lots out there, lots of options. But for our program, you contact your provincial representative, you can use up to $1,750 of your consultant's time to build a grazing plan and other strategies around that. Like say I need help with my watering systems. We have some of the mentors are really, really keen on figuring out how to do water cartage. And so that's another factor when you talk to your provincial rep. And so 85% of that money is rebatable to the producer once you submit your grazing plan. So provincial partner, find the mentor, not necessary, but it's always helpful. $1,750, 85% of that you get back once you send your grazing plan in. So we review grazing plans every Thursday as demand increases. And there's a team of PAs from across the province. And we're just like, well, what is is this going to work for this person? Is this economically sound? We don't ever step on the toes of the people who are on the land, because that's the idea. The mentor knows better than us what it's like in that specific spot. But we do want to make sure that it gets the PA stamp on there, and then that person has a plan when our funding opens, which is very competitive, and it's a federal program, and it's usually March-ish. Then they're prepared. They have their grazing plan. Maybe they've done some work back and forth with our team to tweak it, make some different improvements or changes that might land better with our grading crew, and then they're ready to apply. So you apply online, and then it's usually we try and get everybody informed about their application status by June 1st, because project building time, is a short period in agriculture, especially beef guys. So.
Right. So the common theme that I'm hearing with the conversations that we're having here at the Soil Health and Grazing Conference is there's assistance and there's help or mentors for almost just about anything, right? So don't be afraid to reach out or there's usually a program or somebody who is knowledgeable, whether it be making a business plan, financial, grazing, looking into the funding that is available from the provincial and federal governments. So there's so much out there to promote and aid agriculture producers to continue this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, planning's a huge theme.
Mm-hmm. And so, if there wasn't the federal or provincial funding for this, can this program still run, or can a person just pay outright for it?
For the implementation portion, it's all government funded. Okay. So for the grazing plan portion, we have all the resources in place, and we have online courses. We have a library of speakers that have talked to us, as well as we have 200 and some mentors across the country, and they have access to this monthly mentor check, and we get the coolest people to speak on there. So yes and no, but if we don't have the federal funding, we only are able to apply information. Mm. So whether our people are applying for implementation funding or not, the grazing plan is such an amazing tool that we're looking at doing a grazing plan 2.0 for people who want more analysis in the spreadsheet on how their grazing plan is proposed, as well as how it came out during the season. And there's a lot we can do that way. But yeah, we are reliant on federal funding.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have to say though, for people who are looking to take advantage of all these opportunities that you are mentioning, you just find yourself a provincial partner. In Alberta, there's lots of research groups and forage councils who have really great people who know all the ins and outs of what program to go where. And I can also speak to the ones in Saskatchewan, but those people know things and they're always very easy to talk to, because they wouldn't be in this job if they weren't. So
yeah, that's great to know that there's assistance and there's programs just a reach away.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Adrienne, for taking the time and saying yes. And yeah, you are definitely one of those people who are really amazing and approachable to talk to.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking the time today.
So glad you leaned in with us on the WinEH podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.